What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Art of Suffering podcast with Dalton Arnell. Today, we're in a little different setting. I got way too much to do. That's why I've been slacking on the episodes. Been getting that butt whooped pretty dang good. So, we're going to shoot a podcast episode while I work. I got a bunch of ropes to pull, so I'm going to go to pulling ropes. And we got something we're going to discuss today. What we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about not letting the world influence the way you treat your wife and your kids. That's what we're going to get after today. So 2 weeks ago, I started a kind of a small group deal where I got 7 or 8 guys who are coming to the rope shop on Tuesday nights. At 6:30, we play a little ping pong. We cook burgers. And one thing we talked about this week, it's been really great for me, actually, to get around those guys and kind of share hearts and burdens, so to speak. But this week in particular, one thing that we talked about was bringing home the world or not bringing home the world, right? And how I think, and these guys agreed, that the protection of your family from your daily issues is a pretty important thing. And what I mean by that is, like, you go to work and your boss is a jerk, or some dank cuts you off in traffic, or whatever, insert thing that would get annoying here. It's our job as men to not bring that home and be a certain kind of way to our wives and our children, right? So we talked long and hard about that, about ways to you just leave it in the world. You don't bring it home. You don't take it home and just dump on your family, on your wife, because you had a bad day. And that's way easier to say than it is to do. But this is something that kind of destroys her security, right? What you don't want to do is for your wife and your kids to be on edge. You need to be consistent. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want them sitting at home going, well, what kind of dad or what kind of husband is coming home today, right? Like, they don't know if you had a bad day. And so if you're just kicking in the door being a jerk to everybody because you had a bad day, like, that's not their fault. And this happened to me. I was going through some family stuff about 2 years ago, I guess. And I was doing this. I was being ugly to my wife. And my wife finally said to me, was like, you have got to go talk to somebody about this. And so through these conversations that I had, one of the things that was discussed was abuse by proximity, right? Because you know your wife loves you more than everybody else, you're more likely to be rude to her because you know she's going to love you anyway, which is the craziest freaking thing on planet Earth. Like, that I would take home the things that bothered me throughout the day, that I would take that to the house and then be ugly to that woman because she's the one that's closest to me. And so we have to defend against this. We have to try really, really hard not to be inconsistent, not to let the world just annihilate us mentally. And so we go home and treat our family poorly. I mean, honestly. And so another really cool part of this conversation that stemmed from this is the things that your wife complains about. I heard a podcast episode a couple of years ago. It might have been a year or so ago. This guy was like an ambulance driver, or he was like a paramedic or whatever. He was talking about how frustrating it was when he would come home and his wife would go to belly aching about the people at Starbucks getting her order wrong. And that would bother him because he's like, I saw people getting mutilated today, going to Rex or whatever. And he was classifying his problems as real problems and her problems as minuscule, right? Things that she shouldn't be worried about. And one of the most interesting things that I've ever heard in my life, Jocko Willink was the guy hosting the podcast, and he said, what a gift it is that that's what your wife has to complain about, right? Because as husbands, as fathers, it's our job to shield our people from the world. And if we shield them from the world, the only thing they have to complain about is minuscule things. which is the best thing ever. That's really cool that we even have the ability to do that, because they don't have to worry about the really bad stuff because we handle it for them. So that being said, I thought that was a really cool thing, and talking to the other guys about that was pretty interesting, because that's not really a perspective you think about all the time. That's not something you think about all the time, because it can be frustrating to have someone in your life belly aching about problems that aren't even really problems, and you have actual crap to deal with. But if we look at this as a gift, this is a gift to our spouse, this is a gift to our children, that we handle the bad and they get to deal with minor annoyances, that's an incredible thing. So one thing I've been looking into a lot this week that's along the same topics is the responsibilities of a husband. And additionally, the responsibilities as a wife. So I Google searched all of the different Bible verses that talk about a husband's responsibility to his wife and the wife's responsibility to the husband. And you always hear the same things, but what I was looking for specifically, and it still might be in there, so don't take this as gospel truth. You look it up for yourself. But the fact is I didn't see a single instance where it said if or when, right? So there's no precursor to when you should fulfill the responsibilities as a husband. There's no honor your wife if. There's no respect your husband when, right? It just says respect them, honor them, love them, be kind, be gentle, be slow to anger, quick to listen, these sorts of things. And so all of that stuff to me, I found very interesting, because it all goes in the same deal. Like if you come home every day and your wife is like, oh, this guy in traffic, yada, 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 but your boss is being a jerk all day and you start getting irritated with her because you think what she's bothered by isn't important, you shouldn't do that. You should be thankful that she doesn't have to worry about anything that's super significant. You know what I mean? Now, there is a line, a belly aching line, but, everybody likes to go to their best friend and complain about things from time to time. So you count that as a gift. You count that as a gift to be that person for her, and then to protect her from the actual struggles of the world. Like if the worst thing your wife has to deal with is the barista at Starbucks messing her order up, well, then I'm saying you're doing a pretty dang good job. You know what I mean? But as we move along and as we work towards our goals of being the best husband we can possibly be, we have to separate our responsibilities as being a husband away from your wife having to do anything to have you meet those responsibilities. It shouldn't take her doing something for you to be the husband you should be. You should just be the husband you should be all the freaking time. All the freaking time. And then you should be consistent in this, always. You're always the same, or that's the goal. Like being a emotional, physical, just brick house in your marriage, with your relationship with your kids, where they know what they're going to get. Because if they know what they're going to get, they can be secure in that. And I think this gets lost a lot of the times on men because, we're volatile. We get angry. We get upset. We lash out. We bottle things up until we don't know how to deal with them anymore. And then it comes out as anger. And I don't think that's fair. It's not fair. And it has nothing to do with them usually. Usually it's not your wife pissing you off. It's the world. You know what I mean? She's probably trying not to piss you off so she doesn't have to deal with it. And then the fact is like, if we can train ourselves mentally and emotionally to be consistent, that's gonna change everything for them. They can be secure in the fact that they're gonna get the same thing every time. I think women like that. Don't quote me there because I'm not a woman, but I think they want their life to be stable. You know what I mean? And what is more unstable than some dude coming home from work just mad all the time? It's pretty hard to I don't know, meter that sometimes, but it's not about the being perfect. It's about the striving for it. It's about the talking about it so that we know, so that we can critically look at ourselves and change the way we look at the world, our wives, and our children. So if we critically look at ourselves and go, dang, man, like 3 days this week, I came home being a total asshole. And maybe that's why my wife doesn't want to be around me. Maybe it's not because she's being a jerk. Maybe it's because I've been a jerk, and if we don't look at these things in that light, because I mean, the fact of the matter is that you can't change her. You cannot go inside her heart and change her. The only way that she's going to change, she's going to soften to you, is if you are consistent and meet her needs. That's it. The only way her heart changes is if your heart changes. And if your heart changes, everybody in your house will change. Everybody in your house will change. And so I just find this topic super interesting because it's a very, very challenging thing to do. It's a very uncomfortable thing to do sometimes, is look at yourself critically and go, man, maybe I'm the actual problem here. Maybe I'm the one being a total jerk, And if you quit looking at the world as something that's tearing you down or out to get you or whatever, and you start looking at your own decisions and the mistakes that you make and the things that you're not working on, you can take ownership of all these things. And when you take ownership of all these things, then you have some control over them, right? You have some control over who you are and what you can do. Because I would say for myself, like 90% of all of the things that have happened to me in my life have been because of my own foolishness. It's not because anybody was out to get me or, there's that 10% that just bad stuff happens, and that's kind of part of life. But for the most part, all of the sticky situations I found myself in over the years are totally due to my own foolishness. It has nothing to do with the world being out to get me. It has everything about the choices that I make. So once you start breaking those things down in a way that's like, okay, well, if my choices are going to lead to the repercussions of my actions, maybe I look a little closer at my choices, or maybe I look a little closer at the things that can mentally, physically, emotionally affect me. And if I can start controlling those things, or if I can start, deciding whether they're really worth getting pissed about or really worth being angry about, then it doesn't have dominion over you. You know what I mean? Then it doesn't own you or control you. If we start taking ownership over these things that they're physically, mentally, and emotionally controlling us, and once they're controlling you, that's when it starts affecting your spouse. That's when it starts affecting her security. And I know as a man, that doesn't make any sense to us. It's like, how is me having a bad day affecting my wife's security? Well, the only way it affects her security is if you come home different, right? If you come home foul or in a bad mood, or you let the world really affect you in this negative way, that's when it starts eating away at her trust in who you actually are. And I know that is a huge burden to bear for men, but it's very important, right? We're the protectors. We're the providers. We're the ones who are supposed to take care of them. And if we can't even take care of ourselves, mentally, physically, and emotionally, how are we supposed to take care of them, right? And I think this is an epidemic, a pandemic in America, especially in America, is like we don't count it as important as we should to take care of ourselves in those three major facets, right? So like you might take care of yourself mentally, but you don't take care of yourself physically, right? And that's going to come back to bite you in the ass towards the end of your life. And if you don't think your wife thinks about this, I think you're wrong. I think all of these things, whether consciously or subconsciously, this is something that affects them. This is something that affects the way they see us. And I'm guilty of this. Like, I have not been as devoted to the gym as I should have been for the last couple of years. And I have not taken care of myself physically like I should have the last couple of years. And just like everybody else, I can make 5 million excuses on why I don't have time to do that stuff, but they're just BS, man. I'm just lying to myself. I'm just going home, drinking beer, not doing what I need to do, not getting up on time, just because I'm being lazy. That's what we're being lazy. And I'm as guilty of it as the day is long. I am as guilty as the day is long when it comes to not making that stuff a priority. And I swear, my wife has never said anything to me about this. She's never said, hey, you're gaining weight, or hey, you're not taking care of yourself, because she would think that would offend me. But I really, truly believe that subconsciously this affects the way that she looks at me as a man. And so there's nothing wrong with making a mistake, but there is something wrong with not changing it and not going back to what you know is good for you. Like if you don't go back and correct the mistake, then you didn't learn from the mistake. And so then it just becomes a terrible habit. So for myself, I can recognize that the mistake has been made and it's time to change some things so that we don't repeat the same mistakes, if that makes sense. So what this looks like in my life at the moment is literally the gym, literally not drinking. Like these are the things that negatively affect me on a daily basis. Like if I drink, I don't get up. I don't go to the freaking gym. And so trying to change those things, trying to change those habits is extremely difficult. And anybody can say, you can be like, well, you never should have started drinking in the first place. Well, no shit. No kidding. I shouldn't have started drinking in the first place. But mistakes are made, and they don't have to be continually made. They can be changed, right? And so you just choose to walk a different way. You just choose to decide today, I'm going to start today. I'm going to change the way I'm acting, right? And this is quite frankly why wisdom is the wise application of failure is my most favorite quote of all time. Because it's like that mistake or those habits that we've built that are just not good for us, you can learn from those mistakes. You can learn from them and you can change and you can go the other direction. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. And that's way easier to say than it is to do. But the fact of the matter is it needs to be done. And the first part of this is taking ownership of the mistake, is going, okay, I've been a lazy piece of garbage. I need to do something different. So you just do something different. And everybody has the freedom to do that. Anyways, guys, that's something I've been thinking about for the last 2 weeks, is just not letting the world negatively affect me, my mental, and the way that I treat my family, along with learning from the mistakes I've made, the bad habits I've built, and saying, we're going to change. We're going to do something different. And I don't succeed at that every day. Unfortunately, I wish I was disciplined like David Goggins and, could just will myself to do it. But the fact is that it's a process. Changing is a process. So if we choose to go a different direction, be prepared for the enemy to fight you on it, because he wants you to stay in that. And that's been the problem, right? Whether it's arthritis flares or work or whatever is just super busy, the fact is he's going to come to you. The second you start doing the right things, he's going to come try to steal, kill, and destroy your family. So keep that in mind. As always, guys, check out the apparel on the website. It supports the podcast, artofsufferingpodcast.com. Thank you so much to everybody who's gone and purchased apparel there. It'll be linked in this video if you're watching it on YouTube. If you need help, if you need to visit with somebody, please reach out at dalton@310edu.com. That's my email address. They can reach out there, right? And I'd love to visit with you. Guys, if you want to be on the podcast, I'm looking for guests. So just shoot me an email there. We'll get you scheduled. It can be anybody. The whole point of this thing is to share sufferings and hardships so other people can learn from it. So if God is calling you into sharing your suffering with other men, women, young men, all sorts of people that watch the podcast, then give me a call. I'd love to give you. That's my microphone. Don't touch it.
What's it for?
I'm talking to people. It's my microphone.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out and jump on the podcast, I'd love to have you. I'd love to visit with you. We'll schedule a time and get that done. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. What you need, cream cheese? You need to change your diaper?